you get like one type of metal, right? You go to an iron ore mine, you might get iron, copper, something like that, diamond. It's very rare that in a single mine you get different types of metals or valuables. But this entire conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramanand Rai was so incredible that in one single place, so many different kinds of valuable metals were excavated, Kaviraj Goswami says. Prabhupada doesn't have a purport here, but before even coming to America, Prabhupada wrote this book on the conversation between Ramanand Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This book was later found, this manuscript was later found. We lost many pages in this manuscript, but there was still some manuscript left over from the conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramanand Rai. And Prabhupada named it In Search of the Ultimate Goal of Life. That's how he named this book, In Search of the Ultimate Goal of Life. So there Prabhupada is basically in that book summarizing every single topic that they're discussing. And there is this chapter called A Mine of Nectar in that book. So there Prabhupada gives some elaboration on what these metals are that were excavated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramanand Rai. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says here, in the previous verse Prabhupada gives a shorter purport, but just mentions the verses, From these 10 verses you can see what was mined or what was excavated. But in this book, Prabhupada goes into a little bit more detail on what these items were. So, I wanted to read just one paragraph or two from that section. So this is Prabhupada's writing in that chapter, Mine of Nectar, in the book In Search of the Ultimate Goal of Life. So this also nicely summarizes what's happened so far. The Lord thus enjoyed the company of Ramanand Rai while discussing about Sri Krishna continuously for 10 days. Those conversations that took place between Ramanand Rai and Lord Chaitanya were very, very confidential talks about Vrajadham, the place where the transcendental pastimes of Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna are eternally manifest. In those conversations, the ecstasy that flows in Vrajadham was thoroughly discussed. There were so many other talks between Ramananda and Lord Chaitanya which are impossible for anyone to understand. In short, the whole topic was just like a mine of gem-like information which produced one gem after another for the benefit of all humankind. The mine of that conversation is compared to an unfathomed, deep metallic reservoir. As the mine was being excavated, precious metals of infinite categories came out in the form of copper, bell metal, silver, gold, and lastly, touchstone. So these are the kinds of metals that are described also, that were excavated during the conversation, right? So you have to start with copper, which is really low grade, right? In comparison to all these metals that we're discussing. Then bell metal, then even better, silver, then gold, and at last, touchstone. Precious metals were excavated both in the preliminary as well as the concluding discussions between Ramanand Rai and Lord Chaitanya. In the preliminary talks, in search of the ultimate goal of life, the idea of following the moral and social divisions of society is compared to copper. So this is initially, Ramanand Rai describes the Varnashram system. And then Mahaprabhu says, tell me more. This is not enough. Can you tell me more? So Ramanand Rai goes even further. But Prabhupada says copper is the mother of all metals. The foundation, Without that, it's hard. The idea of offering the results of following the moral and social divisions of society is compared. The idea of offering the results, karma yoga, is compared to bell metal. So initially the Varnashram system, and then once we are actually functioning according to the framework of Varnashram, then we offer the results, right? This is karma yoga, and that Prabhupada says is compared to bell metal. The idea of renouncing the world and taking karma sannyasa is compared to silver. The idea of devotional service mixed with empiric speculative knowledge, jnana mishra bhakti, is compared to gold. And lastly, devotional service unmixed with any empiric knowledge, jnana shunya bhakti, is compared to touchstone. So, in terms of knowledge itself, this is how they go. Starting from Varnashram, Mahaprabhu says, give me more, tell me more. And then ultimately, they come to Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadhyanavartam, pure devotional service. So, that is compared to that of touchstone, Prabhupada says. And it doesn't just stop there. There is more. In the concluding discussions, the same comparison is made in regard to the different transcendental sentiments of devotional service. So they came to devotional service, but they still wanted to mine more, right? So even there were many gems that came about. The conception of Dasya Prema is compared to copper, Sakya Prema to bell metal, Vatsalya Prema to silver, and Madhurya Prema to gold. And lastly, the transcendental pastimes of Sri Radha Krishna are compared to touchstone. So this is the different kinds of topics or precious gems that were mined and excavated in this conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai. So we will continue with the translation. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begged Ramananda Rai to give him permission to leave, and at the time of farewell, the Lord gave him the following orders. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, give up all material engagements and come to Jagannath Puri. I will return there very soon after finishing my tour and pilgrimage. So Ramananda Rai was the governor in the southern part of India. So Mahaprabhu is now actually touring the southern part of India. So there, Advaitacharya or Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was it? Can you remind me? Who told you should definitely meet Ramananda Rai? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, right? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told you should definitely meet this devotee Ramananda Rai. So then Mahaprabhu met him on the way, South India. And now Mahaprabhu is saying enough. You've spent enough time here. Everybody is actually hankering for this. But Mahaprabhu now, like Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami, they all want to leave their particular positions and be with Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu told them, no, you have to wait. Time will come. But with Ramananda Rai, he basically said, it's time for you now. You give up everything that you're doing and come to Jagannath Puri. And what will they do? The two of us shall remain together at Jagannath Puri and happily pass our time discussing Krishna. This is what Mahaprabhu wanted to do. Because this was one of the internal reasons for Mahaprabhu's appearance also. The external reason for Mahaprabhu's appearance was he wanted to save the living entities in Kali Yuga by distributing the holy names of the Lord, by Harinam Sankirtan. But his internal reasons, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, is that he wanted to taste his own sweetness. And therefore he took the Radha Bhava Jyoti Suvalita, the mood of Srimati Radharani and the complexion of Srimati Radharani, so that he could taste his own sweetness. And he wanted to take up his second part of the reason for his appearance. So was calling Ramananda Rai to come. And of course we know Ramananda Rai is described as a Vishaka Saki, who is a very intimate associate of Srimati Radharani. So he wanted to spend time with Ramananda Rai in Jagannath Puri. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then embraced Sri Ramananda Rai, and after sending him back to his home, the Lord took rest. After rising from bed the next morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the local temple where there was a deity of Hanuman. After offering him obeisances, the Lord departed for South India. So this was, Prabhu explained so nicely last week of about Hanumanji. And this Hanumanji temple is in South India. And Prabhupada also mentions in the purport of how there is also a Hanumanji temple in Vraj, near a very important temple of ours, for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas at least, Sri Govindadev temple. So near Radha Govindadev temple, there is Hanumanji temple also. So a few years back, I was there in Vrindavan with my spiritual master, and he took us there. This is right next to the Govindadev temple. So before you enter, it's on the right side. It's a small temple of Hanumanji. So Prabhupada says this temple was initially there where Gopal temple was. And this Gopal is the same Gopal that came to the very place that we are speaking about, is Vidyanagara. You know who this Gopal is? Who came from Vrindavan to Vidyanagar? Yeah, this was Sakshi Gopal. Right? We know this story that we just few chapters back we discussed this story of Sakshi Gopal. So Prabhupada says this Hanumanji temple was there, and then later it's now presently there next to Govindadev temple. And it is said that when Aurangzeb had sent his men to destroy Govindadev temple, right? Because he said, how can such a big temple be there? And especially he was furious that his own grandfather, Akbar, had actually given endowments to build the temple actually. Akbar had basically sponsored the building of the entire temple. So he was very furious that how can there be a temple bigger than any big mosque in India? So he wanted to go and destroy it. And the devotees tried, but then they got slaughtered by Aurangzeb's men. They were hugging the pillars, it said. They couldn't let go. But unfortunate. And then the devotees were looking at the temple being destroyed. It took, I think, like 2 months or something for them to... And whatever we have is just the remains of what was destroyed. And it is said there was a loud roar when they were destroying the temple. And they saw this huge monkey who was in the vicinity. And the soldiers basically were really, really terrified, it's said, in Raj. And it is said it was Hanumanji who came at that time, to protect the temple. He had seen enough. He could just not tolerate more. So this loud roar basically shattered the hearts of those who were trying to destroy the temple, and they didn't want to return ever. This is one of the Sthala Puranas that is said in Raj. So this was Hanumanji, but we discussed a lot more last week of how incredible Hanumanji was in his service. So we'll continue with text 301. So just a small recap of what had happened, because it's a week now. So this is text 301. And if you have your phones, you can take vedabase.io and then go to Chaitanya Caritamrta, Madhya Leela, chapter 8, and text 301. Vidyapure nana mata loka vaishe jata Prabhu darshane Vaishnava hoila chari nijamata. Vidyapure nana mata loka vaishe jata Prabhu darshane Vaishnava hoila chari nijamata. Vidyapure nana mata loka vaishe jata Prabhu darshane Vaishnava hoila chari nijamata. Somebody wants to chant? Vidyapure nana mata loka vaishe jata Prabhu darshane Vaishnava hoila chari nijamata. Okay. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is the word for word. Vidyapure. In the town of Vidyanagara. Nanamata. Various opinions. Loka. People. Vaishe. Reside. Jata. All. Prabhu darshane. In seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vaishnava. Devotees of Lord Vishnu. Hoila. Became. Chari. Giving up. Nijamata. Own opinions. Translation. all the residents of Vidyanagara were of different faiths, but after seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they abandoned their own faiths and became Vaishnavas. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshuronmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So yeah, now Mahaprabhu is leaving Vidyanagara, but it is mentioned here. This happens throughout. Whenever Mahaprabhu is traveling through a place, just by his mere audience, by his mere sight, everybody is completely transformed. This is one of the ways in which you can associate with a sadhu. Actually, so sadhu sangha can actually happen in three ways. One is just by mere sight, just by being in the presence of the sadhu. It can have an incredibly transformational effect. The other way is through sparsha, they say, by touching the sadhu. And this also happens many times with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is also mentioned. Then when Mahaprabhu would go to a village, he would hug people, embrace people. And by mere embrace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, people would be completely, ecstatic, completely transformed. And what would happen is such a devotee would spread Krishna consciousness in that place, and then Mahaprabhu would move on. And the other way that we can get sadhu sangha is by hearing from the sadhu. So the three ways the Shastra says, just by mere sight, you can be transformed by a sadhu. So this is, of course, Krishna himself. So think about the potency of just mere darshan of Krishna, especially when he wants to give love for Godhead. Krishna, people saw Krishna when he appeared 5,000 years back, right? But not many people were completely, buy into the fact that this was God himself. Many people thought he was just a mystic. He had like superpowers. He could do some stuff, but he was not really God. This was many people's idea. But then here Mahaprabhu came in the mood of Srimati Radharani. He was really, really merciful. Therefore, he really wanted to give, whether people liked it or not. He was giving them freely love of Godhead. So this transformational effect was there. And this is no exaggeration. Like whoever saw Mahaprabhu, wherever he went, he completely transformed everybody. Even the most strongest of Mayavadis were convinced. What to speak of innocent people who were really, could have their hearts transformed very easily. So this is text 302. Ramananda haila prabhura virahe vihvala prabhura dhyane rahe vishaya chariya shakala. When Ramananda Rai began to feel separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was overwhelmed. Meditating on the Lord, he gave up all his material business. So this was Ramananda Rai's situation. He had spent 10 days, think about it. 10 days with Krishna. We see this with even Narada Muni, right? He was meditating, and he got a glimpse of Krishna in his meditation, and then Krishna was gone. And that he couldn't tolerate. He was like constantly searching, like what happened? Like immediately came out of his meditation and he was like really desperate to see the Lord again. But here, Krishna was personally present with Ramananda Rai for 10 days and nights. 10 nights actually. Throughout the night they were discussing in the evening. And even Mahaprabhu gave a very special darshan to Ramananda Rai. This was very unique, the Chaitanya Caritamrta says. Ramananda Rai saw this incredible form of Krishna, but this was a cowherd boy, but he was golden color. This was the unique darshan he got. Initially he saw him as a sannyasi, right? But then Ramananda Rai says, I saw you as a sannyasi in the beginning, but now you are like Gopal. You are the cowherd boy, but your complexion is not Shyama Sundara. Your complexion is molten gold. Can you please explain what's happening? So this unique form was also shown to Ramananda Rai. And now Mahaprabhu is gone. He says, you come back to Puri, we'll meet. But this separation was just so intolerable for Ramananda Rai. So what he was doing, because of separation, he was meditating on the Lord. When this actually brings the devotees even more closer. We've read this so much in detail in the previous sections of how Srimati Radharani and the gopis are in separation from Krishna and how it brings them even closer to Krishna. Although Krishna is not physically present, just the mere thought of Krishna brings them even more closer than how he might have personally been present in front of them. So this was Ramananda Rai's situation now. So initially there is meeting, and once the meeting is done, this is called viraha. Ramananda Rai was experiencing the highest ecstasies that one could experience, and then he was there in that situation. Sangshepe kahilu Ramanandera milana vistari varnane nare sahasravadana. So this is Kaviraj Goswami again. I have briefly described the meeting between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai. No one can actually describe this meeting exhaustively. It is even impossible for Lord Seshanag, who has thousands of hoods. This is an incredible example that Kaviraj Goswami is giving, right? He has described briefly. I mean, just that brief description was so deep. What Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had. It will take lifetimes for people to understand what that discussion was. But he's saying this is just very brief, and what they spoke was just infinite. And he gives this example of Lord Seshanag with thousands of hoods. It has a significance, right? It is said from time immemorial, Seshanag is trying to speak about the glories of the Lord. From time immemorial. And they say he has barely scratched the surface of it. It's so infinite, the Lord's qualities, that even with thousands of hoods, and every hood speaking about a quality, we have barely scratched the surface of the qualities of the Lord. And he's comparing the same thing to the conversation between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That the topics and the conversation was so deep, was so infinite in nature, that it's impossible to completely describe it. Just like anything that's spiritual, right? Prabhupada said even a single word of Srimad Bhagavatam can deliver us. That's how much depth is there in a single word of scripture. What to speak of such incredible topics of discussion between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that it's unlimited. When you start speaking about Srimati Radharani and the ecstasies of Srimati Radharani, it's actually impossible to even conceive of it. And this is what Kaviraj Goswami is describing, that nobody can possibly do it, but I've tried to describe it in short. Sahaje Chaitanya Charita Ghana Dhugda Pura Ramananda Charitra Tahe Khanda Prachura. The activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are like condensed milk, and the activities of Ramananda Rai are like large quantities of sugar candy. Radha Krishna Leela Thate Karpura milana bhagyavan jai shai kare ashwadana. Their meeting is exactly like a mixture of condensed milk and sugar candy. When they talk of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, camphor is added. One who tastes this combined preparation is most fortunate. When I was reading this, I was thinking about our morning burfi. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't tasted it, I would highly recommend you tasting our Mangal burfi that we make here in Radha Kalachandji Dham. This is exactly the same description, you know. The milk is boiled and boiled and boiled and condensed so much, right? And then sugar is added. So we just have those two, I think, right? Probably ghee. Ghee is added. Ghee, no, just milk and sugar is our burfi. But then there is an extra component here. Kaviraj Goswami is saying, we should try that. Add a little bit of camphor and see how it tastes. But he says the activities of Mahaprabhu are like that condensed milk. And what's the quality of a condensed milk? What is different from normal milk? Does anybody know? What is the difference between condensed milk and normal milk? What makes it thicker? Yeah, what happens as a result of boiling? The water evaporates. This is what happens now. So milk also has some water content. It's not just milk. But when we condense the milk, the water is completely gone. It's just the milk, and it's so concentrated. It's really solid. Just the milk fat that's remaining. The water is not there. So this is the activity of Mahaprabhu, that it's so concentrated. And Ramananda Rai's activity, Kaviraj Goswami says, is like sugar candy. You add a little bit of sugar candy to such concentrated milk, it completely elevates the taste of it. And then when these both are talking about Radha and Krishna's pastimes, it's like adding an extra special ingredient. It's like adding camphor. I don't know if you've had this experience of adding camphor to sweet items. I come from South India, and we have this festival called Pongal. This is the harvest festival in South India, in Tamil Nadu actually. And we make sweet Pongal. Basically rice, dal, jaggery, milk. It's boiled nicely. And then you add a little bit of camphor to it. It just completely, transforms the taste of the item, the dish. So this is the description. That, of course, this is a mundane description of how I'm trying to compare, because that's all we have. But this was how incredible this entire conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai was, that it didn't have anything extra like water, right? It was really concentrated, like the condensed milk. So how should we honor this? We have made a preparation, right? So Kaviraj Goswami also says how we should actually honor this preparation of this conversation between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jaiha ekabara piye karna dware tara karna lobe iha charite na pare. This wonderful preparation has to be taken orally. Orally means not orally. It's orally. Through the ear. If one makes it, if one takes it, he becomes greedy to relish it even further. So this I have practical experience, not orally, but orally. When you come new to the temple, devotees want to encourage you. So then they give you this morning burfi, right? You have this. Every day you come, they'll encourage you by giving a sweet, But after some time, you're not new anymore, So devotees are not coming to you and giving you that burfi. But then you've had this taste of this burfi, that is so addictive. So you have these withdrawal symptoms basically. That's what happens. Where is the burfi? You're constantly going after it, So it's something similar. When we start hearing about these pastimes of Radha and Krishna, especially this topic, this entire conversation that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai are having orally, when we're hearing about it, and if we have some little taste, then it's impossible for us to stop hearing about it. He becomes greedy to relish it even further. This is the nature of all of Krishna's katha actually. Any Krishna Katha that we hear has this incredible quality. This is what Bhagavatam describes also, right? Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. It's so relishable that this is this concentrated juice. This is Srimad Bhagavatam that we have. And this juice is no ordinary juice, right? Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam. That this is the mature fruit of all Vedic literature. That is Srimad Bhagavatam. And Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta, what to speak of it? It's even more deeper. This is Bhagavatam in action, basically. Everything that's there in the Bhagavatam is practically demonstrated in the pages of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta. So once we get a little bit taste of it, we become greedy. We want to hear more, know more and more and more about the pastimes of Krishna. So this is the nature of Krishna's activities. Rasa tattva jnana hoya ihara shravane prema bhakti hoya radha krishnera charane. By hearing the talks between Ramananda Rai and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one becomes enlightened with the transcendental knowledge of the mellows of Radha and Krishna's pastimes. Thus, one can develop unalloyed love for the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. So this is the quality of the talk between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is that, I mean, it's pretty detailed, you know. Many years back, Mukunda Datta Prabhu was here. He usually visits us after Sadhu Sangha. He was a long-term resident here in Dallas. So at one of our conversations, he was saying, we have everything in Prabhupada's books. Many people say, my actually spiritual master has this joke that in the early days, what the devotees used to do when they went for book distribution is they would go to the university and sell the entire library, the whole set of books that Prabhupada had written. They would go and put it in libraries of these universities. So in one such instance, two devotees, at that time we had the Bhagavatam in about 60 volumes, right? Total of about 125 books or something like that was there of everything. Krishna book was in 3-4 volumes, like that, small books. Everything put together, this entire books that they were distributing to the university in one shot was like 125 books or something like that. You can just stack it up like that. So these two devotees, they took this, stacked it up in front of the representative in the university and said, this is all our spiritual master's writing and we would like for you to have all of this. And then there are about 125 volumes or 125 books that are there in this stack. And then they were telling, in the course of the conversation, they were saying, and still they think he didn't give us everything. And then this person who's looking at this big stack of books is saying, thank God he didn't give us everything. Just what he gave us was so immense that it's really hard for us to even complete that in one lifetime. It will take many, many lifetimes for us to actually read and assimilate what Prabhupada has given us. So Prabhupada has given us practically everything that we need, that for us to attain the highest levels of devotional service to the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. And this is what Kaviraj Goswami says here. Prabhupada personally stopped his translations of Srimad Bhagavatam and to translate Chaitanya Charitamrta. And we all know this incredible story of how everything was published in 2 months. Prabhupada wanted the entire Chaitanya Charitamrta to be published in 2 months. And everything is there in the pages of the books written by Srila Prabhupada for us to advance as high as possible in our path of devotional service. And this is the nature of the conversation. By hearing the talks between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one becomes enlightened with the transcendental knowledge of the mellows of Radha and Krishna's pastimes. This is the highest of all pastimes that we can ever think of, right? And one can develop, it's not just that we get the knowledge of it, thus one can develop unalloyed love for the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna, which is what all of us are endeavoring for, right? The entire process of devotional service, at least in the line of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, is to serve the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. And we have that in the pages of Srila Prabhupada's books. We don't need to go searching for it anywhere else. It's all there for us. Chaitanyera ghura tattva jhaniha haite vishwasa karishu na tarka na kariha chitte. The author requests every reader to hear these talks with faith and without argument. By studying them in this way, one will be able to understand the confidential truth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, so everything is there for us, but for us to actually know it, there are a few qualities that we need to develop, that Kaviraj Goswami is giving here. And he is not just saying it, he is requesting. This is the nature of an Uttamadhikari. Right? He is just not, he thinks himself to be the lowest of all. Therefore, he doesn't think he has the authority to order people. And therefore he is requesting. This is what Prabhupada would also do. No? He requests people to please chant the holy names of the Lord. This is practically, we can see the advancement of a devotee in how they behave. And Kaviraj Goswami here is saying the author requests every reader to hear these talks with two qualities, he says, with faith and without argument. By studying them in this way, one will be able to understand the confidential truth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why is it important for us to actually know the confidential truth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Does anybody know? Do we have a mic?
Hello. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes, it is important, otherwise people might think he is just some other sannyasi, any other sannyasi.
He might think they are any other sannyasi. That's okay. But it is said that we can never approach the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna without knowing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is the only way that we can actually properly approach the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. If we try to approach the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna by bypassing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we will get all confused. Our understanding of the tattva of Radha and Krishna will be completely not proper. So therefore, for us to approach the lotus feet, which is what Kaviraj Goswami is saying in the previous verse, right? That this conversation can actually give us unalloyed devotional service to the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But for us to have, for Radha and Krishna, he says, sorry. But for us to have that, we need to hear with these two qualities, with faith and with without any argument. And if we hear that, then we can actually know the confidential truths of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And through that, we may be able to develop unalloyed devotional service to the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Actually, we go 2 verses and there is a purport. And then this Prabhupada describes even further this idea of faith there. Alaukika lilai parama nighura vishwase paye tarke hoya bahudura. This part of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes is most confidential. One can derive benefit quickly only by faith. Otherwise, by arguing, one will always remain far away. There is no way. Always remain. There is no way by argument we can actually come any closer to understanding these. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Advaita Charana Jahara Sarvasva Thare Mile Dhana. He who has accepted as everything the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu can attain this transcendental treasure. Purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Krishna is obtainable for the faithful, but for those who are accustomed to argue, Krishna is far, far away. Similarly, these talks between Ramananda Rai and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can be understood by a person who has firm faith. Those who are not in the disciplic succession, the Asauta Panthis, cannot have faith in these talks. They are always doubting and engaging in mental concoctions. These talks cannot be understood by such whimsical people. Transcendental topics remain far, far away from those engaged in mundane arguments. In this regard, the Vedic mantras in Katha Upanishad 129 state, Naisha Tharkena Matir Apaneya  Sudhyanaya Preshta. According to the Mundaka Upanishad, Nayam atma pravachanena labhyo na medhaya na bahuna shrutena yame vaisha vrunute tena labhyas tasyaisya atma vrunute tanum swam. And according to the Brahma Sutra, Tarka Pratishthanath, all Vedic literatures declare that transcendental subjects cannot be understood simply by argument or logic. Spiritual matters are far above experimental knowledge. Only by Krishna's mercy can one who is interested in his transcendental loving affairs understand them. If one tries to understand these transcendental topics simply by using one's material brain substance, the attempt will be futile. Whether one is a Prakrita Sahajiya or a mundane opportunist or scholar, one's labor to understand these topics by mundane means will ultimately be frustrated. One therefore has to give up all mundane attempts and try to become a pure devotee of Lord Vishnu. When a devotee follows the regulative principles, the truth of these talks will be revealed to him. This is confirmed in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyam indriyai sevonmukehi jihvadav swayameva spuratyadha. One cannot understand the Lord's holy name, pastimes, form, qualities or entourage with one's blunt material senses. However, when the senses are purified by the constant rendering of service, the spiritual truth of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna is revealed. As confirmed in the Mundaka Upanishad, Yam e Vaishya Vrunute Tena Labhyas. Only one who is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead can understand the transcendental features of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Such a incredibly comprehensive purport. And this is something that Prabhupada, I think in many of these purports in this section has emphasized many times, that through tarka, through logic and argument, we can never understand Krishna. No? And especially, Prabhupada is mentioning these kinds of people who are scholars and people who are trying to somehow understand the material just by their own intelligence. Right? This is the difference between something material and something spiritual. Right? So you take a physics book and everything is there, present there, and you can somehow figure things out just by reading the physics book. You can know even the most difficult of theorems and postulates by just having the book with its own description, with the math that's there and everything that might be there. We can figure it out. Okay, with a teacher it's much easier, but even without a teacher, if we have some basic tools that we know, then there are ways in which we can figure things out. But the problem with spiritual literature is that just like anything spiritual, it is also something that's living. The scriptures we can actually have a relationship with. When we're reading, it can reveal things to us. Just like with a person, when we are having a relationship with a person, we get to know more and more about the person over time. Right? So when we're engaging with spiritual material, when we're reading the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam or Sri Chaitanya Caritamrta, the literature can close itself to us or open itself to us because it's a living thing. The literature is not something that's just ink on paper. It might look superficially just like any other literature that we have. But this is living and breathing because it can speak to us. And this is why Krishna is so confident when he is saying in the Gita that this is Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, Pavitram Idam Uttamam. Oh Arjuna, this is the topmost of all knowledge, but it's the most secretive. It's the most topmost secret also, Raja Guhyam. But it's there for everybody to see, isn't it? Those 700 verses of the Gita are there for everybody to see. So how can this be Raja Guhyam? How can this be a secret even? Right? If we hide certain verses, right? Okay, for people who are not really faithful to Krishna, you only get 650 verses. Rest of the 50, most verses on devotional service probably only devotees are given. But no, Krishna is freely giving. All the 700 verses are there for everybody to see. But then, very, very few people actually after reading the Gita come to a conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This was the problem, right? When Prabhupada writes in the introduction also, of the Gita that when some lady comes to ask him for a copy of the Gita that he can recommend, he basically has no copy that he could recommend. At that time, I think there are hundreds of different translations of the Gita that are already present before Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. But this one book that Prabhupada wrote has made devotees all around the world, in every town and village. So what is the difference? The Prabhupada is so audacious enough to put that right in the title. Think about it. Somebody saying, I am writing the book as it is. This is exactly as it is. No change whatsoever. It takes a lot of courage to actually put that in your title. To say that this is the exact thing. I have not tampered with it at all. I am giving you as it is. As Krishna spoke to Arjuna. So for that, we cannot go by argument. This is the famous verse Prabhupada quotes often. Tarko pratishtat shrutayo vibhinna. This is a famous verse from the Mahabharata, right? Tarko pratishtat shrutayo vibhinna. That it's impossible for us to understand the Vedic literature, Shruta, by tarka, by logic or argument. Nashav rishir yasya matam na bhinnam. He says, because you are called a rishi only if you have a differing opinion from another rishi. Or else you are not really considered a rishi. You cannot really have an agreement. This is the nature of scholars, right? If you have something published, they go and argue against it and say, oh, there is some mistake in this publication. So this is better. That is better. This is the nature of scholars. Scholarly work is that there has to be disagreement, or else you are not really considered a scholar. But what is the right way to understand scripture? How does it say? Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhaya. That it's very, very difficult to actually understand the principles of religion. Dharmasya tattvam. The true principles of religion are nihitam guhaya. It's really, really difficult. So the only way to understand that is Mahajanoyena Gatassapanta. Is only by following in the footsteps of Mahajanas. And that is this verse, is that Kaviraj Goswami is saying, he who has accepted everything, the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu can attain this transcendental treasure. Nobody else can attain this transcendental treasure. Only by following in the footsteps of Mahajanas can we actually understand this. Because Prabhupada is saying, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriya. This is his quotation from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu he gave in the purport. Is that it is not something that we can figure out using our senses. Na bhaved grahyam indriya. We cannot just grab it with our senses. The nature of spiritual matters. It has to be revealed. And this revelation happens only when we actually start serving. Sevon mukehi jihvado swayameva spuratyada. So many times Prabhupada has mentioned Atha Shri Krishna Namadi and Mahajanoyena Gatasapanta. This is something that is so fundamental for us to progress. Without these two things, there is absolutely no way that we can progress. We need to have a little faith, right? This is how everything starts. Adav Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. And Prabhupada says this initial faith means I'm going to go and sit in here and see what's happening. Right? Somebody is inviting us for a program, and then most people don't even want to come. But there are a few people who have some little faith, Adav Shraddha, and say, let me go and see. And if it's nice, I'm going to continue. If not, there's no loss. I'm just going to not go back again. So this initial Shraddha is required. But that's just not enough, right? This initial Shraddha has to be cultivated to unflinching faith, Prabhupada says. Unflinching. Well, do you know what flinch means? Huh? What is to flinch? Like, yeah, like somebody is, you're standing here, somebody is coming to punch you in the face. And you keep standing like this. That's unflinching. But all of us flinch, like we try to protect ourselves. That's flinch. Unflinching means you're not flinching in the face of any adversity. Anything might be thrown at you, but you're completely unflinching. You're so confident in your faith in Krishna that it's completely unflinching. Anything might come in your way. Any number of reversals can come in your way, but our faith is so strong that it's completely unflinching. This is what Prabhupada says. This unflinching faith has to be developed. And only then we can actually stay on the path of bhakti. Because this initial Adav Shraddha, Chaitanya Charitamrta describes is komal. It's very tender. It's very soft. Unless this is strengthened, it can be easily swayed, this initial faith that we have. And this strengthening of faith happens through sadhu sangha. Adav Shraddha tata sadhu sangha. When we are in the association of devotees. This is what the Bhagavatam says. Satam prasangam mama virya samvidau bhavanti hrit karna rasayana kata. Tad joshanashvash apavargavartmani Shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishiti. Shraddha, this is the initial point. Adav Shraddha, it starts. But then it has to move anukra mishyati. Step by step, gradually, it moves to rati and prema. How? Satam prasangam mama virya samvidau. In the presence of Satam, or the devotees of the Lord, mama virya samvidau, when the pastimes of Krishna are heard, then this actually enters our heart. That is the only way that we can actually develop this unflinching faith on Krishna. So if we have this unflinching faith and not argue, then there is some chance for Krishna to reveal himself to us. If these two are not there, Kaviraj Goswami says, forget it. There is no way that you can actually obtain the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. So we can have doubts, that's there, natural, but then it should be in the sense of how Arjuna is approaching Krishna. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava pruchami tvam dharma samudha cheta yat shreyasyan nishitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadi mam tvam prapannam. He's completely bamboozled, right? He doesn't know what to do, but trusts that Krishna can guide him. So we can have doubts, but then we should approach it in such a way that I don't know at this point, but Krishna, please reveal what is the right thing to me. In that perspective, then Krishna will reveal things to us. Yes, Mataji. Can you pass the mic, please? Hold it at the top.
Hare Krishna, you were reading today that when the people, the citizens, when they saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they immediately changed and they became Vaishnavas. So we know that, well, we're learning that to become a Vaishnava is a very, very deep and rare situation. So they were seeing Mahaprabhu and becoming devotees, Vaishnavas. But was there, after that, was there like constant studies in like Nectar of Devotion, Srimad Bhagavatam, so they would learn the history and the details, and because they would see him and become Vaishnava, but does that mean they knew everything as well?
This is what I think is described also, is that when Mahaprabhu would go to a town or a village, there would be somebody who was really advanced, and Mahaprabhu would actually have that person as the spiritual master for that particular place. And with him as the center, devotees would come together and study about Krishna and know more and more. And just like how we read here, right? If we have some little taste, it's actually impossible for us to stop hearing about Krishna. So they would want to hear more and more and more. And that's how it happened. And it could also be that the Nectar of Devotion says, this is very rare, but by Krishna's mercy, prema can be bestowed on any person. It's Krishna's prerogative. So we cannot basically say that it will take time for people. But if Krishna wants, he can bestow prema instantly. So this was Krishna who wanted to do it. That was his mood, right? He inundated the entire world with prema, it is said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it could be seen both ways.
So he would teach, and then he would empower his confidential associates, and then they would become the spiritual masters of the land.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you for the nectarian
Hold
class.
it at the top. No, hand. Because the transmitter, in the bottom.
Thank you for the nectarian class, Prabhu, as usual. My question is, you just made a statement of Prabhupada that one word of Bhagavatam is enough to deliver us. Can you elaborate on that? How I can best utilize that in my life? How do I apply it to make sure, at least put some baby steps towards that? Can you elaborate on that statement?
So, in the context in which Prabhupada is saying it, is that the Bhagavatam is so ripe with potency that even a single word, if we can understand it properly, this is the thing, right? If we can understand a single word of Srimad Bhagavatam, because every single word has infinite meanings. This is what that's the context in which I was saying, right? Because the conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai, Kaviraj Goswami compares it to Sheshanag, speaking through his thousands of mouths. So this is the nature of everything that's spiritual. And in that context, Prabhupada is saying that even a single word of Srimad Bhagavatam has so much potency that it can give us infinite revelations. That's the idea. That one word can reveal so much to us. That one word is enough for us to perfect our lives. Because it's a revelation, right? And my understanding is that my spiritual master says our reading of spiritual books is a little different to how we read in school or colleges, right? So we are in first grade, we finish everything that we need to know, and we move to the second grade. Everything that we need to know is there. The third grade, like that, it's a very linear progression. But spiritual understanding or reading is a spiral instead of a linear progression. So we go through the same point again and again. We read the Gita, we go through the Gita again and again and again, and each time we go through the same point, but our understanding is a little higher and higher and higher and higher. And this we can see in the Srimad Bhagavatam. When Arjuna was hearing Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the same instructions propelled him to fight in the war, right? And we see in the first canto of Bhagavatam that Arjuna, after Krishna has left the planet, is thinking about all the instructions that Krishna had given him. The same instructions at this point is propelling Arjuna to do what? Quit everything and go to the forest. It's the same instruction, right? At that point, Krishna's exact same instruction propelled Arjuna to fight the war. At the same instructions, when he is reminded after a period of time, is saying it's time for us to quit. And then they give everything to Parishit Maharaj and the Pandavas leave for the forest. So this is the nature of a spiritual text, is that it reveals things to us at the progress that we are in. As we progress further, the same thing will reveal more to us. The same thing that we read will reveal more to us. So that way it's infinite in nature, the meanings that we can derive out of a single word. This is what Prabhupada said. I think Harishwari Prabhu writes that Prabhupada wanted to have many more translations of the Gita. What Prabhupada gave us was the commentary of Baldev Vidyabhushan, right? He said, though there is commentary of Ramanujacharya that we can translate, there is commentary of so many acharyas that we can translate. So this is the nature of spiritual text, is that infinite meanings can be derived. Yeah?
Thank you.
Yes, Mataji. Then you can, and then Mr. Bhagwan Prabhu.
Thank you. The text, 305, where their meeting is being compared with, both of them are compared with sugar and condensed milk, and Radha Krishna topic is like a camphor. So there's this verse, this is more of a reflection than my doubt. It's from Raghunath Das Goswami, Stavavali, volume 4, text 10. It's more on a chanting. Tortured by thirst, please
hold it away from your body.
Okay. O tongue tortured by thirst, please mix the delicious nectar of the name Radha with the wonderfully sweet condensed milk of the name Krishna. Add the fragrant ice of pure love and drink this charming drink at every moment. It was for the holy name, where we are comparing again. Raghunath Das Goswami is comparing Radha Krishna's name to nectar and condensed milk. Yeah. And I was thinking like this conversation of Rai Ramananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also compared to something similar. So even our holy name, I mean, one way what is Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is giving it as that if we hear it, we will develop a taste. But also when we chant the holy name, then also we get the qualification to understand this highly elevated topic, is what I was just relating to that verse.
It's a natural progression. Shravanam should lead to Kirtanam.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Mr. Bhagavan Prabhu.
You mentioned these different devotees, like giving up everything and then going to Jagannath Puri, or going to Vrindavan, living under trees, going to the forest. How does somebody acquire the real goals in life, like having property and houses, maybe a new chariot?
No, I don't understand. How does living... No, can you hold the mic at the top? The bottom is the transmitter, or else we'll keep getting...
The goal in life is they're missing out on owning property, and then, having a large wealth, and then passing that on to their children. Why isn't that stressed as being important? Why are they living under trees?
Actually, living under the trees is also not stressed. What is stressed is actually the purushartha, So there are 4 purusharthas that are mentioned, right? Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. But there is a 5th one, that is prema. Pancham purushartha, it is said. That's what Mahaprabhu came to give. So usually, most people in this world are trying to go after kama. But if done properly, they do it through religious ways, earn money, artha, and then satisfy their desires. And eventually, if they want, they think about moksha, but it's very rare. But an intelligent person will think that the house, the property, and everything is taken away from me at the moment of death. Right? I'm not going to carry everything that I accumulated throughout my life. But Krishna is saying there is something that we can carry throughout our lives that never diminishes. Everything else starts diminishing. But there is one thing that doesn't diminish. And once we get a taste of that thing that doesn't diminish, then there is no way we can go back to accumulating properties and doing our things that we thought will give us pleasure. That's basically what it is, right? If we get a higher taste of devotional service, then all these things that we think will give us pleasure won't give us pleasure anymore, because we have tasted something higher. And this is what the Goswamis were tasting, was that they were tasting something that was so incredibly high that they were living the highest of material lives, right? They were home ministers and finance ministers, living in palaces, having servants at their beck and call, and they were having boatload of gold coins. Think about it. Rupa Goswami had a boatload of gold coins, not figuratively, literally. He had a boatload of gold coins, and he was willing to give up everything because he had tasted something so sweet that these, in comparison to that, didn't really feel anything close to that. That's basically what it is. The idea is, through this progression, we eventually come to that point. Through dharma, we accumulate wealth and we have our desires, and over many, many lifetimes this happens, unfortunately, right? This is not a single lifetime thing. Is that over many, many lifetimes we figure out, oh, this is actually not giving me happiness. Okay, let me try to use my life for moksha or liberation. But that's a very slow process. And there is no guarantee that we'll actually come to that point, because there are so many pitfalls in between. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to directly give us love for Godhead. Even though we were not qualified, Mahaprabhu was so merciful that he forcefully gave it to everybody. Yeah? Thank you. If there are no questions or comments, we'll stop here then. Yes, yes. No, a few minutes we can.
Thank you for this wonderful class, bro. Very, very wonderful class. Thank you. I was just appreciating the last purport of Srila Prabhupada, that and we quoted the verse from Mundaka Upanishad, Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyo na Medhayana Bahuna Shrutena. Even not by hearing. I was like confused when I heard this verse first time. How can not even by hearing you can understand Krishna? Then it says that when Krishna himself chooses that person, then that person get mercy. And Prabhupada is quoting this, Athasa Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahan indriya, that not by the blunt senses, but by the seva. So when Mataji asks this question, then how can we relish the Bhagavatam? The best way to relish Bhagavatam, nashta praesho bhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata.
What is Nityam Bhagavata? By serving two Bhagavat, by book Bhagavat and person Bhagavat. Shushrushro Shraddhanasya Vasudeve Katharuchi Shan Mahat Sevaya Vipra. If you want to get taste of hearing Bhagavatam, there is we should enter Prabhu said, unflinching, unalloyed service to the spiritual master. Otherwise, anyone can read the book and just like a parrot can memorize the slokas. But the real way to understand Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Yaha Bhagavata Pade Vaishnavare Sthane Caitanya Ashraya Kara. There is a verse in Caitanya Caritamrta. What is that verse? Yaha Bhagavata Pade Vaishnavare Sthane Caitanya Caritamrta Kara Nitya Kara Pane. That means when you understand Srimad Bhagavatam, you have to follow the Vaishnava who is understanding Bhagavatam. And who is the topmost Vaishnava who is understanding Bhagavatam? Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada. And what is the mood of Guru Maharaj? We have to understand that mood. When we understand the mood of Guru Maharaj, we can dive deep into the Bhagavatam.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll stop here then. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrta ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatarubhyasya, Kripa sindhubhya evacha, Patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai.